on the chat. So welcome everybody to our Reskilling for the Future of Work meeting. I'm very excited about the meeting today. We have a wonderful agenda. And Deborah, you want to? Great. So we're going to start with about 15 minutes of introductions. If everybody can introduce yourself on the chat, but also I'm hoping that Carrie Gatling, if she's here, can say a few words about the New Jersey Good Jobs Challenge grants. And then also I saw that there's a job announcement from the New Jersey State Office of Innovation in collaboration with the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development, NJDOL, et cetera, and the Heldred Center looking to hire a policy and engagement fellow to implement some of the work around the future of work. So I'm hoping Xavier or someone can speak a little bit about that. And anyone else that would like to share key initiatives real briefly, and we'll be posting all of these on our Google Drive, which we've been keeping up to date. We have many more things that are coming in hot and fast. So we're going to do introductions for about 15 minutes. And then I'm thrilled to have Sam Couchy, the CEO and founder of One Huddle, sharing some really exciting things going on. And he just published a wonderful article in the International Business Times on tech's role in making reskilling accessible and equitable for every worker, which is what he'll be talking about today. And we're also posting that article. And then at 11 o'clock, we're going to have a wonderful presentation, which has been the culmination of an enormous amount of work that ETS has been doing on using skills to empower economic mobility for all. And that will include a breakout with 4 different groups that you'll all be in to explore and discuss their presentation and next steps. With some brief readouts from the breakout sessions. And then I'm absolutely thrilled to announce that at our next meeting, which is November 17th from 10 to 12, Peter Capelli, who is a world-renowned HR person, professor at Wharton, and author of 2 fabulous books, many other books, but 2 recent books that are very relevant to this. I just finished reading The Future of the Office. It's a short, quick read, but it's fabulous, where Peter is illustrating the challenges that we're facing in drawing lessons from the pandemic, deciding what to do and how to do it moving forward. Do we allow workers to be permanently remote? Do we let others choose when to work from home? Do we get rid of their offices? What else must change? And the decisions have huge implications for individuals, employers, and for society. There are advocates on all sides, and this is the moment to redefine what work means for employees and how it fits into society. It could be an opportunity to make a big and costly mistake as well. So I'm thrilled to have Peter Capelli joining us next time. Okay. And the next slide. So just to remind everybody, most of you have been to previous meetings, but a few of you have not. So what are we doing here? This working group is really very much organic and growing, and we've shared a lot of information, and what we're overall intention here is to really prepare the current and future employees for meaningful and equitable employment in the context of the future of work. And we're particularly focused on, as you'll see today, how to better serve the skill development needs of all stakeholders in society, specifically people who may have not had full access and equity. And so we're basing this on principles and practices for enhancing social responsibility, corporate social innovation, sustainability, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And on the next chart, you can see the focuses that we've been working on. We've collected enormous amount of current information about the state of skill development. And we've begun to identify the critical skills that are needed. And that's what ETS will be talking about that. We also have been working on a portable individual training account concept and other concepts related to increasing the accessibility of various pathways, which is also what Sam will be talking about today. And it's all about proposing viable solutions. So we started with understanding where we've been and where we are, and now we're really moving rapidly into viable solutions. So that's where we are. And what I want to do now is have a few people unmute themselves and talk a little bit about their initiatives. So Kerry, I see you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about the New Jersey Good Jobs Challenge grants?
Absolutely, and good morning, everyone. My name is Curry Gatton from the Department of Labor. We are super excited about the Good Jobs Challenge that is part of the Biden administration's $3 billion investment through the American Rescue Act. And $500 million is earmarked specifically for the Good Jobs Challenge. And I have on here with me Christina Gaetano from the Economic Development Authority that we are working very closely with to put a proposal together from New Jersey. We established this website that we all invite, and actually I can send it to you, Dr. Gina, so we can share with everyone, but that allows you to go and see where you fit in exactly in the proposal that we're sending out. But it's basically getting folks back to work using sector partnerships as the guide and the drive, especially as we're coming still going through, but coming through the economic downturn due to the pandemic. And so Christine, if you're on, I don't know if you wanted to share something else about the ins and outs of the proposal we're working on.
Just to say that it really is a proposal that's about uniting the employers, training, and the people that need jobs and that are there for jobs, and community organizations that can help them get over some of the barriers that are existing in our system today. That there's opportunity to look at the way that we're doing things and to make great improvements so that we can help people find those jobs. And also part of what you're talking about, this upskilling and the ability to turn a job into a career and move along a pathway in a very successful way. So we hope that you all do, we'll put the link to the web page in the chat so that you can access it there and also get it out to you by email.
Excellent. And we will post it on our Google Drive. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Hey, is there anyone else that would like to share in the next couple of minutes a particular upcoming initiative or active initiative? We have about 2 minutes to do that. Aaron, did you want to say something?
Sure. So I'm Aaron Fickner. I'm the president of the New Jersey Council of County Colleges, and thanks for inviting me to be part of this group. We are launching a significant initiative this winter with funding in the state budget to work with community colleges, vocational technical high schools, four-year college partners, and in partnership with the New Jersey Business and Industry Association to enhance and develop new curriculum in 10 areas of the economy, ranging from patient care and healthcare to data analytics in innovation technology and in renewable energy, manufacturing and logistics. And so look forward to sharing more information with all of you as our initiative takes root. But excited to be part of this conversation and to find ways to connect the work that we're doing to build a strong educational ecosystem and build new pathways with the work of this group. So thank you for the opportunity.
Fantastic. I You're doing some great work, and we've crossed paths many times in previous iterations. Okay. All right. Anyone else have something you'd like to share real quick with everybody? I think we're good. All right. So I'm going to turn over to Sam, and Sam will be sharing his screen, and thrilled to introduce him. Sam is a real mover and shaker, and he's going to talk about how mobile games are making recruiting and upskilling accessible for every worker. And Sam is the founder and CEO of One Huddle, and as you can see, a really dynamic and leading edge kind of person. Go ahead, Sam.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks, everybody. Good morning. I'm excited to spend the next 45 minutes here talking a little bit about what we're doing at One Huddle, but also tie it into, I think, the broader tailwind that's occurring with startup and high growth technology software that are becoming more and more aware of the challenges around upskilling, reskilling, recruiting, and the need for software to move quicker to help folks succeed at work. So I have a few goals today in our time together. I'm going to share my point of view. 5 years ago, I was a company of one, hanging out in Starbucks, running around with no office space. Today, we're 40 plus employees in Newark. I want to share a little bit of what started that journey. Some of this may be news that everybody here already knows, given the great group that's on the call. But I think it's important to set the foundation to share how a product emerged out of this realization. I'm gonna show us a demo of One Huddle and some of the things that have been changing since COVID, because the world has accepted product like ours much differently since the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, there was just different conversations that we were having than we are today. So I'm excited to share that, and we'll have some time open on the back end for Q&A to open it up. I'm originally from South Florida, where it is much warmer and we don't have things like nor'easters, but I've been in Jersey for about 10 years now. And I share that because my first job out of high school, because I had to go make money right away, was at a Gold's Gym. And I clearly remember day one on the job. Like all of us remember our first day in different roles we had. But my first day at my first job, I walked in to essentially step into a role as a fitness instructor at a Gold's Gym. I was told within a few minutes by the general manager that I was going to be a front desk person instead, a job that I did not apply for. And I was told that at 6 in the morning that he was going to go finish his workout, and I was going to man the front desk for the next few hours. Over the next few hours, a few things happened. I had a few members I'm pretty sure I charged the wrong thing for at the juice bar. I had a few members that came in that had a past due bill that I didn't know how to charge for, so they got a free workout. And I had a few angry guests that came in because I didn't know what they needed me to do on their account. After said manager finished their workout and came back, I left for a lunch break, and I never came back. This, unfortunately, is an experience for many workers on day one. And this is really what has inspired me to start a company to use software as a way to better connect employees to a brand, educate them for the job long term, and prepare them as they move through a long work life. Unfortunately, today it's a reality that organizations truly are not ready for the future of work. We talk about infrastructure today, as I see the television and the bills coming through on the Hill. Just like roads and bridges and tunnels have some work to be done on, we could also agree that the technology infrastructure around developing a future of work workforce has a lot of opportunity to get better. 5 different generations are at work today. So while we've moved on, I think, from complaining about millennials on calls that I have with some C-level executives, We can now start complaining about Gen Z. I think we're now in a position where it's a majority swing. 55, 60, 65% of our workforce is now millennial or Gen Z, and it's different. Gallup, Jeannie mentioned some great books from Peter Capelli. The other person I would focus on, Jim Clifton and Jim Harder from Gallup released a report pre-COVID on a book called It's the Manager. They made the claim that only 15% of the global workforce wakes up every day and is, quote, excited to go to work. And that employee engagement problem is a real challenge because as we think about what technology and software we could be using as a community, whether it's in the public sector or the private sector, in academia, in order to better onboard, upskill, and connect workers, a lot of the stuff we're using is still left in, decades ago. 91% of workforce training dollars are going towards live classroom instruction or online e-learning desktop-based programs that are not necessarily accessible to all workers. But even beyond the access thing, one of the major problems that we're seeing is that we're not even sure that the way we're doing things is working. Harvard business study several years ago was looking at the efficacy of a live classroom sales training. They did a study across 5,000 sales reps that sat through a stand and deliver 5-hour workshop. They found that 87% of what you learn in a live classroom instruction is forgotten within 30 days, as much as 70% within 72 hours, if there's no consistent reinforcement that occurs. This forgetting curve has become a reality where today in not just in America, but globally, a lot of organizational training is essentially a one and done, where we're living in a moment where continuous lifelong upskilling is now critical to keeping workers ready for whatever job or role may be next. What is all of this resulting in? I know we've all heard probably this great resignation phrase way too many times over the last few months now. But it's been said that as many as 1 in 2 workers are going to be looking for new work as they move into 2022. You can't help but turn on any news station today, any day, and see something talking about labor challenges as they exist. And a lot of this has come from not COVID only, but a long way coming of bad technology and some bad strategy. And this is where we live in a really in a moment with a lot of opportunity. For us and our story, we created One Huddle as another tool in the toolbox. And one of the things we saw as an opportunity is that when you look at the things that our workers today are good at, you look at the things that they look forward to doing. We found that games are something that are, and while not new, gamification's been around for a long time, leaning into gaming mechanics as a way to better upskill a worker was the path that we went down. There's 4 prongs to what I'm about to show you. I'm going to now jump into a little bit of a demo for all of us to show you what we created, because it's also interesting to see how it's evolved so quickly in the last few months. One Huddle for the last 4 years has been a platform for onboarding and upskilling workers across a dozen verticals. Today, bartenders at Lowe's hotels, nurses at RWJ Barnabas hospitals, and airmen and women at the U.S. Air Force are using our platform for onboarding and upskilling initiatives. But as we thought about product design, we've thought about them with four constants that we have to stay true to. The first is designing a product that's every worker focused. As we know, 83 cents of every training dollar today in America goes to the top of an organization. And much like trickle-down economics, it doesn't quite get to the people that need it most. So our product focused on being a platform where any type of content can be housed, from frontline workers to full-time workers, as well as the product being a credential that the worker can take with them from job to job. I had a phone call yesterday with a major private equity firm with a gentleman who works exclusively in HR products. And he said to me, quote, Unfortunately, in America today, the human resource function has not been interested in the welfare of the workers. They have a fiduciary responsibility to protect the company. And for this reason, their hearts have not always been in the right place. Now, a lot to read through in that. But I think the one thing we've looked at is building a product that can move with the worker wherever they go as they change jobs through their lifespan is a core tenet of our platform. And we think it should be a core tenet of any e-learning or learning management system. Second, every manager focused. You hear a lot today about new technologies emerging around coaching and development and building up managers and turning managers into coaches. There's a lot of data that says that beyond pay, what are the indicators that drive employee connectedness and engagement? And it's a very specific type of person, a very specific type of manager. That manager they consider a coach. So on our platform, one of the absolutes was authoring being a critical function. Anybody within the organization can create a game. No longer can just a few HR people within each organization control the keys to all of the learning. We live in a world today where a retail manager on the front line might know or see something that can help the retail store next to them. And unfortunately, authoring is very tough across an organization. So our focus was to make a product that any manager can use at any time to create any type of turn any type of learning or communication into a game, as well as feed powerful insights to the manager so he or she can react quickly to their workforce. The third prong is every day. In a recent study that we conducted at One Huddle, we found that only 9% of companies have a 52-week-a-year training and development program that's programmed out year-round for every worker. That's a problem today. Just a single onboarding experience is no longer enough. So in our platform, a few things we've done is we've made games something that are easy to grab off the shelf. We have over 1,100 games spanning 16 different workforce skill areas with channel partners that can put content into our game shop if it's approved. And these are games that aren't just OSHA training and food safety training, but are games on things like the best-selling book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, or games in the month of October on Breast Cancer Awareness Month, or games on topics that they may not be skilled training, but they make you a better person. If they make you a better person, you'll be a better worker. And so again, a core part of our product was how do we make the product something that people will play 365 days a year versus the single experience, which meant a lot of engineering with AI to automate and scale the deployment of modules and games so that a manager doesn't have to hit the on button because managers are too busy. And then the fourth prong is everywhere. And I think this is the most a simple one to fix. But today, only 1% of workforce training is available mobile first. Throughout COVID, we consistently saw challenges with mobile first learning products, not just ourselves, but others that struggled to sell into organizations, not because they didn't want to use the software, but out of fear of exposure to litigation. What type of, are we allowed to let frontline workers use a mobile device off the clock? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Do we have to compensate for it? If we compensate for it, do we have to pay for phones? So many unknown questions that really kind of fall into the policy side with outdated labor rules, result in organizations saying, you know what, it is just easier for me to print the manual and hand the manual to the worker and hope that they have everything they need. An area where software can really help. So these are 4 prongs: every worker, every manager, every day, everywhere. And what I'd like to do is show you kind of 2 product demos today really quickly. The first one is our One Huddle for upskilling. This is our core product at One Huddle. This is how we started. We built a platform where you can turn any game, in any training, any communication into a game. I'm going to show you quickly how that works, because for those out there that are gamers, this is not an experience like Fortnite. Sorry to bum you out. We wanted to build a platform that leveraged gaming mechanics. We're also easy to author and easy to create for any manager. Easy to play for any worker is also a critical point, because regardless of generation of worker and their game sophistication, anybody should be able to play. This is a platform for Shake Shack. Some of you might have eaten here before. Our platform is a cross product. It could be desktop, tablet, iOS, Android. But let's say you're a new hire at Shake Shack and you got to start work tomorrow. You can download your One Huddle Shake Shack platform, and you may be asked to complete a series of trainings before you show up on day one. So in this example, you can see here on the screen, I'm going to jump into this contest. Kind of think of it like fantasy sports. Think of it like an online poker tournament. Think if you're a Candy Crush person, you can think of tournaments on that platform. But the way you learn the material is by playing the game. So for this specific role, there are 5 games I have to play before day one. A game on our service standards, a game on COVID safety protocols, a game on our menu, a game on our mission. And you know what? There's 30 other team members at our store. So why not play a game on each other? So when I walk in on day one, I know who on the team is who, and a little bit of background on each, so I feel better connected before I even walk in. The menu game, as you can imagine, most companies gravitate towards the selfish stuff first. It's the stuff about their brand. So if I look at this menu game, before I play, I can consume some learning. So there might be some information here, like the actual menu that I can read. There might be information here that I should review before I jump into the action on the game. But there also might be videos that I have to watch and consume. But one of the things we learned is, like, you know what the worst games are? The worst games are the games that force you to do stuff. The best games give the player the opportunity to choose. So there's a lot of learning platforms that have sprinkled gamification over their journey. But again, if it's required for you to do things in a certain order, and I'm taking the strategy away from the player, in many ways, you are defying many of the tenets of great game design. Our team at One Huddle, our entire engineering team comes from the gaming world, not from the HR world. It's one of our sort of secret advantages that our game design team is always thinking about, how do we build a good game? I can also just read the menu. So I can store documents, which, as we all know, for folks that are using learning management systems, the majority of platforms are largely just a Dropbox to save stuff. So we made sure that in product, you can save your documentation, you can save your videos. But here's the coolest part about the platform, or in a second I'll show, you can also tie a certificate to each game. So if this is a really important game, and as an organization, I want you to win this game before moving forward, I can attach a trophy to a game. The end user, as a player, is just constantly trying to accumulate trophies in their pursuit. The manager is also getting what they want, because they're making sure on the back end they can see who's tracking and completing the trophies that they need to before beginning training. So with that, I will pull down and show you what the next stage looks like. If I'm ready to play, our games are short burst, quick burst trivia in nature. All of our games are 2 to 3 minutes in length. They can be longer, they can be shorter. But an individual would learn the information by struggling through the content. And this is, it's sometimes counter to the way we think about how learning works. Struggle being a critical part of the learning process. We can see clearly that individuals that play the game and struggle through it, on the other side of the experience, the information they learn sticks around longer and stays with them better than they would if they learned it in a traditional watch the video, take the quiz motion. Players will play through questions that are randomized based off of their individual performance at the question. So we have a layer of AI we call predictive learning embedded in the back end to make sure that as you play, the questions you see are the ones you should. So even in the team of hires, different employees will see a different mix of games based off their performance. At the end of the game, if that's all I have to do, I can, close the app and get back to work. Everything funnels up to an overall leaderboard. Companies run daily, weekly, and monthly incentive programs. So in probably 70% of the environments we're in, gameplay is completely voluntary, not mandated, because organizations create the right type of community and culture for folks to voluntarily peek in and play. So I can track myself and see how I'm moving up the leaderboard against my coworkers. I can also access a detailed profile that shows me how I'm performing. So while I move up levels, I track streaks. I don't know if anybody out here is a Peloton person, but you can also see how you're streaking on One Huddle, and all of the achievements that you have unlocked are yours. And at the beginning of this example, I can go through year, month, and so on. One of the most powerful parts of the product we are proud of is the fact that any worker on our platform, whether you're an overnight security guard or a C-level executive in the corner office, can pull everything you've learned and everything you've earned into a single credential that you can take with you and keep with you as you move through the workforce, regardless of if the company deactivates you or not. The information and learnings you have are your property and for you to take. So as a quick background, that's the way our product has flowed for upskilling. And as we've gone through, the last few years, it's been largely the same: onboarding and upskilling, onboarding and upskilling. We even had a recent research study with the University of South Florida, where this was a formal academic study looking at knowledge, the speed of learning and knowledge acquired on One Huddle versus learning it on a traditional video platform like LinkedIn Learning. We found that using games, 45% faster. You talk to organizations today, we can talk about how speed of onboarding can make a direct impact on their management team, reduce costs, improve speed of service, improve sales outputs, improve morale. And it's not just us doing this. There are many other products in this space that are workforce related, but these are the types of things that organizations that we found are wanting to hear as they think about investing in software. Some of the other outputs we've seen so far, and I'll just talk about a few here. Hand and Stone is a massage and spa network with a high frontline workforce. They were able to see a 22% increase in sales performance. I've talked to some folks here about measurement of training effectiveness. Some of the data all the data here that you're seeing is coming from our customer. Lowe's Hotels saw something shocking. They saw that 86% of gameplay happened off the clock. And the other one I'll touch on is we recently did work with the Texas Workforce Commission using our platform across their one-stop centers throughout the state of Texas and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They found that 99% of folks preferred learning on One Huddle over their e-learning platform for the unlocking of certifications and credentials. This was a Q1, Q2 survey that the Texas Workforce Commission put out. The upskilling product I just showed you, but what I really wanted to show today is what has emerged over the last few months. We recently launched a new product because one of the things that we saw is organizations that we worked with during COVID, two things happened. One, HR teams, learning and development teams got laid off and furloughed at record numbers that I don't even think have yet to be reported on. We probably saw 90% of our points of contact in organizations disappear because organizations, one of the first round of cuts were the HR teams. Part of the labor shortage, in quotes, challenge, many organizations are struggling to get their senior HR people back to man the controls for recruiting. And many organizations we've been talking to have, while interested in investing in upskilling and onboarding software and initiatives, have told us, we're not interested in training right now. We need to find people. So we recently launched a new product called One Huddle for Recruiting, brand new within the last 6 weeks. It has been absolute chaos for us in a good way very just very surprising and eye-opening the levels at which organizations currently spend on recruiting initiatives that they don't measure. A recent Monster.com survey that came out yesterday that I shared with Gina, that I will share with everybody, found that 90% of candidates today say they experienced being, quote, ghosted in the last year when they applied for openings. 73% of workers are losing faith in the application process, and 29% of those surveyed by Monster.com said they will never apply again to a brand that ghosted them in the application process. Couple that with the fact that a recent Harvard study came out talking about the fact that 9 in 10 C-level executives know their applicant tracking systems are discriminatory and are not getting the right people through to view by managers. We have a recruiting problem that software has a major opportunity to play a part of, but in many ways is hurting right now. So we launched an extension to our product to use it for the recruiting process. There are 3 ways that you can use, and we're showing this today in light of demo, just to also show how software companies are trying to move really quick right now to solve problems. 3 things that we've identified. One is brands need to find more candidates. Organizations are spending, we talk this Hand and Stone brand, 6 figures on ZipRecruiter a year. They spend 6 figures on Indeed. They spend 5 figures on LinkedIn hiring. And their chief of stores said to me, we don't have a single store that couldn't use at least one more person. The first way that we're using our platform is by boosting job applications and job postings with a game. So instead of saying, scan this QR code and apply and go to this website and attach a resume you don't have on you, which results in an environment where 1 in 3 workers start an application but never finish it. With One Huddle, you can boost Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, existing job postings on your job board with language for folks to scan and play to learn about your brand. We are seeing a rise with brands that are seeing more candidates come through their interview process because they're using games in the top of funnel to attract more folks. And these are some examples of how Hand and Stone is putting ads that are basically game-based ads into social, on their career portal, and pop-ups in store. They're actually doing an initiative in many stores where if you play the game and win it, they will guarantee you an interview. Number 2, educate and excite applicants. If we can excite an applicant, they're going to move through our process better so an organization can get a good understanding of the candidate before they hire. But if we educate them as well during the process, they won't do what many HR directors tell me is happening. A candidate goes onto a site and applies for every job open, resulting in 10x the recruiting ad spend to wherever those ads are going. Organizations pay per conversion when someone applies for a job. So when I apply for all the open jobs on Indeed, a brand is paying more than they should for the same applicant. So when we can educate a candidate during the interview process, we can reduce waste. We can also create an environment where that candidate is better ready to start on day 1 if we hire. This is a Dunkin' Donuts brand right here in Newark, where on their front window, instead of the, hey, go to www.dunkindonuts.com/job/portal/Newark ... And if I do go to that, I have to add a resume, which I don't know about any of you, but I don't have a resume on my phone that I can simply add, which means I have to save that for later until I get back to my computer to do it. Oh, and by the way, I don't have a desktop at home, so I have to go to the library. Like there's a major miss in the opportunity for technology to be used to get me into pipeline right now. With this Dunkin', I can scan the QR code, enter my name and email, and start exploring games about the brand to decide if this is someplace I even want to work at. So that's an example of how their brands are educating and exciting candidates. And then third is really for the brand. The information about people that are playing on the platform gives me better insights into the candidate. I can see what games a candidate is exploring. I can see how they're performing on specific questions. And I can make better choices about what job I might be recommending or how I want to make a selection. So those are kind of 3 prongs today that are existing. Some initial data, and I'm going to open it all up. We'll open it up for questions here, and happy to dive deeper and hear other people's thoughts of even other technologies that people are seeing. But some initial results with recruiting after just really 30 days with some of the companies we're working with, a 66% increase in applicants. Folks are seeing people log in and play games, and then they may not apply right away, but those candidates are responsive to outreach from the recruiting team to get into pipeline. And as we all know, a proactive recruiting motion is significantly better and has significantly better outcomes than a reactive recruiting motion. 66% increase. Second part is 50% time saved in the interview process. Some initial things we're hearing is candidates have more information about benefits, schedule, brand, the position. So when they move into interview process, they don't have to spend as much time explaining things that the candidate now is aware of by playing games. And then third, 10 games played on average by candidates. Hand and Stone had a situation where a potential massage therapist played over an hour of games on the platform before they even applied. So wild. If we just ways that we can use technology, things like games, as part of this process. 10:46. I'm ahead of schedule. I wanted to leave 15 minutes open for all of us to talk a little bit deeper and share some additional insights, so we can open it up.
Well, Sam, that was amazing. It's so much transformation from being an HR director and learning and development, and how things used to be, and director of recruiting. So we've come a long way, and this is fascinating. So who has a comment or a question? You can unmute yourself.
And as we're
Maria has a question, and I don't. We have 2 Marias. I think that's Maria Diamante, or is it Maria?
Yep, that's me.
Okay, go ahead, Maria.
Thank you, Gina. Sam, thank you very much for this. I'm just wondering, because the example that you gave is more of an unskilled labor, trying to attract younger workers. Is this something that can be translatable to, I don't want to say older workers, but more seasoned workers and white collar workers or green collar, gold collar workers?
Sure. Yeah. The example thanks, Maria. The example I did share was a quick service restaurant brand. Today, some of the examples of brands that are using the platform. Deutsche Bank is using it for financial compliance training for existing folks. We have in the military example, we recently won a contract with the U.S. Air Force that are using us to deploy leadership, diversity, equity, and inclusion reinforcement training to airmen and women. The RWJ Barnabas Hospitals here locally is using us for medical error training across the entire labor force, and are about to move into using the product for patient care for kind of a customer service application. And as a product, we actually started more at, I'd say the corner of the workforce that was full-time sales, revenue generating, customer facing workers. And that experience exposed me to the fact that not everybody got the same access. And that's sort of why we've made it such a mission-driven focus to bring the product through the whole workforce versus just, like I mentioned early, kind of certain corner always gets all the toys and not everybody does.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Aaron has a question.
Yeah, Sam, thanks for your presentation. Fascinating work that you're doing at One Huddle. Appreciate learning more about it. So a number of us are working in the space in New Jersey trying to help prepare the workforce. And have you thought about, the bigger implications of your work for the education and training ecosystem that's working to try to keep pace with the changing needs of the economy and build pathways for more people? What are some things that you think we should be thinking about based on your learnings that could be helpful for us in education and workforce development? I know it's a broad question, but
Sure.
Be interested in your thinking.
Yeah, I think that there's a real thirst from the organizational side for content that's ready to go. We've learned that, even in some really sophisticated organizations that have really well-developed learning and development teams with great instructional designers, many of them have had some level of downsizing. So there's a need, a heavy need for not just the software, but also the latest and greatest and the best content that's applicable. And, I think that that's an area where education can work with, private sector technology, ed tech learning companies that are also, like, for us, we're very thirsty for content. We hired 4 instructional designers in the last month. All are teachers in Newark who are part-time instructional designers with One Huddle, which is exciting. But we've seen a major demand from our existing companies for more content, more stuff. And in many ways, Aaron, I would say organizations, they may not necessarily know what type of content they're looking for, but they're thirsty for skill development, leadership training. They'll say things like, we want to create a workforce that manages time better and has more grit, But I think there's an opportunity to translate what organizations are saying back and then connect them to the right skill content. But I'm seeing a real slowdown in the authorship of content within organizations because of the kind of squeezing down of in-house instructional teams.
Great, thank you.
Gina, you may be talking on mute.
Yes, Linda, thank you. Linda has a question and then Ram. Linda, you're muted. Okay,
yeah, kind of related to Aaron's, but a little bit different shift here. And Sam, could you say more about how you're working with the state employment agencies, the one-stops, the state hiring? Because a lot of people, that's their first go-to and they're not being satisfied there, so.
Sure. I'm proud to sit on the Newark Workforce Development Board here locally and be a part of the initiatives that they're working on. We are, during COVID, we made our platform open to any New Jersey resident, mostly because figuring as a early stage technology company, it's really tough to figure out how to sell the government. So it was more of we'd rather just be a part of the community and open our product up. We actually converted Governor Murphy's COVID job portal that many of you have seen. We converted over 500 brands into games. So folks who might apply to ShopRite or apply to Amazon or apply to PSE&G can log into One Huddle and play a game on the brand before they apply or before their interview. So, and we have a lot of other brands in the workforce and education tech space that we've talked to that have tried to go that route. I think we're trying to find ways to work more closely with the public sector. At the same, like I said, at the same times, I think some of the most innovative technologies, which aren't just us, there are many others that are trying to move quickly, are maybe intimidated by the process. And investors are largely, if I were to be in a board meeting and say, hey, we're going to sell the government, it would be a very long board meeting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Ram has a question?
Yeah, mine is a quick question. Sam, that's a great one. In terms of the last one you mentioned about the recruiting, One Huddle recruiting, Is there a referenceable, or is there a case study or a use case that you've seen where it has helped? I saw the mobile thing coming in. How it has helped recruiting. Has it helped in the screening process or the sourcing or evaluation? Where exactly it was used?
Sure. So we're watching. We have, I want to say, maybe 14 or 15 companies today using it for recruiting. They are, 2/3 in the service sector, restaurants and retail brands. Many retail brands preparing for Black Friday that are using it to try to staff up now for training for what's ahead. What we've heard so far is a boost in sourcing. So applicants that have played but haven't applied, and then the recruiter has proactively reached out to gameplay and pulled into pipeline. So we haven't seen people play, they haven't seen like a big boost in people playing and then immediately applying. But with a little bit of human intervention, those folks are responding to the outreach and getting into pipeline. That's one thing we've heard. Second is a different type of conversation once folks are coming into their phone screen in their first interview, because the candidate is already knowledgeable. I mentioned at Hand and Stone, this one, and they made the hire, this massage therapist played over an hour of games on their mission and their history and their benefit package. And the thing we heard from the manager was it was just a totally different conversation when the candidate was aware of things in the process. The one we haven't seen yet is seeing folks say that we're making better selection decisions, but I think that's a larger recruiting challenge on how folks use the right scorecards to hire. We're still hearing a lot of we're hiring anybody type stuff. So, but we're trying to watch it and report back.
Thank you.
Arturo has a question.
Yes, thank you. I really like the presentation, Sam, and it's a different way of thinking, which I love. It is more engaged to the current workforce. You mentioned early in the presentation that this was geared to the person carrying the skills throughout. So how does it help? Like, I get my badge, I'm a person, I get into a system, I apply, I play 5 different games for 5 different companies, I get badges in 5 different companies. Will I have a personal profile in the system that I can share with the company, or how does it work behind the scenes for me?
Sure. So there's a scorecard in your profile, and there's 2 things you can do with your scorecard. One, you can download it into your camera roll as like a single snapshot of your higher level metrics. Arturo has played 5,000 games for 50 hours. Here is Arturo's top trophies that he's already unlocked. That's one way. The second way is a QR code that's generated that is a public URL for Arturo that you can put onto your resume. And more importantly, is a credential you keep as a way to show an employer what you know already. And this is a major problem that I noticed over the last few years is, I work at a hotel brand and I spend multiple years completing all of the required trainings and certifications, and even the informal trainings that occur that's brand specific. That's all really relevant to my experience to show to the next brand. And unfortunately, many learning management systems were architected just to sell to the enterprise and not to serve their end user as the player. In our mind, we look at it as the player. So we're trying to think about that differently. Our customer is not the brand, even though they pay us. Our customer and our responsibility is to the worker that's the user on the platform. And that's kind of how we think about it today.
Thank you.
Excellent. I think we have time for one more question. Does anybody have a final question? Okay, I'll ask a question. How do you see this transforming the world of HR and recruiting in big companies?
Well, I would say that, looking at the whole stack of products for us, we have the upskilling product, which is where we started onboarding and lifelong development, and now recruiting. You know, I would say that I read one recent stat about you know, the fact that boomers maybe carried 3 to 4 jobs in a lifetime, but there's a baby somewhere in a crib that's going to live to 150 years today. So there's somewhere. I don't think it's me, but somebody somewhere is going to live to 150. That's a 100+ year work career with 30 to 40 different job changes. You know, so for us, what we're trying to do is impress upon organizations that they need to care. They need to send the elevator back down in many ways. When a worker is done or a worker is moving on from that organization, creating an environment where that worker owns their own performance and their own achievement. And this is, we all talk about hidden credentials, but making something really lightweight that the worker can take with them as a signal to the next organization of what they know. We're not saying the worker is going to be great. We're just telling you how fast they are and how high they can jump. That's my sports analogy for the session. Now we're saying how fast you are. And we're so I think that's kind of the one prong, is kind of power to the worker. The second part of it is, you know, I think we should be looking at this whole space through the lens that workers are going to need to be really nimble and learn new skills really quickly. So all of our products today in HR tech that largely don't talk to each other, like, we all need to come together. Like, there's real opportunity to integrate and implement. And just like the Gold's Gym example in the beginning, they don't just have one piece of equipment. This is not an either or, it's an and. You know, so we're trying to create a product that plugs in really well to a lot of stuff. I think when we do that, every worker is going to win.
Fantastic. Well, let's acknowledge Sam. This was amazing and really very insightful. Thank you. Okay, that was amazing. So now what we're going to hear from and then have a breakout is some really exciting and more leading edge work around using skills to empower economic mobility for all from ETS. I was meeting with the 4 speakers yesterday, and they're doing some really interesting leading edge work, and they have a fabulous presentation planned. So let me introduce Sarah DeBibi, the UX strategist for the application design team, Laura Hullinger, the senior director of new product development, David Shore, the producer, new product development, and Kelsey Thomas, producer, new product development for ETS, educational testing systems. And you can take it away.
Thanks, Gina. Dave, are you able to hear us? Awesome.
I am. Yep.
Fantastic. Take it away.
All right. There we go. Okay, so hi everybody. We are here. I want to give, although Gina, you did a great job introducing the team, I want to give us an opportunity to introduce ourselves. As Gina noted, my name is David Shore. I'm a producer for new product development at ETS, and I've been on these calls since their genesis. So happy to be here with you all and excited to share with you. I'll pass it over to Kelsey.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelsey Thomas, and I'm a producer at Educational Testing Service, and I'm happy to be able to work with you all today. Sarah DeBibi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah DeBibi, a user experience strategist from the application design team at ETS, and I'm happy to be here today, and I'll pass it off to Laura.
And good morning, everyone. Laura Hullinger, also in new product development at ETS, and like everyone else has said, we're really excited to talk with you today. I'm going to hand it right back to Dave.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, so we just want to walk you through our agenda for today. We have done our introductions, and we will talk about what we're going to be doing here. Then we will go and show our perspective on economic mobility, something we've discussed at length in these sessions. And then we'll give you a glimpse into our approach, what we're doing to kind of tackle this issue. And then moving forward, we're all going to go into breakout groups, which we're excited to hear your thoughts. We've sort of pre-selected folks into breakout groups, but I'll let Laura cover that. If you want to join a different group, you're more than welcome to. And then finally, we will share out and we'll pass it back to Gina for a closing.
All right, thanks, Dave. So we are going to go ahead and move a little further into the intro and why are we here piece. So as you all know, RICSI has specific principles around its methodology, and the principle that we're really focusing today on is the one that is focused on engaging in responsible business practices. And so ETS is engaging in research as well as development that's focused specifically on making sure that all individuals who want to be able to achieve a certain career or a certain role in a specific company, for example, that they have the opportunity to get the training that they think that would be helpful and that the organization thinks would be helpful, that every individual, no matter background, has the access to be able to accomplish that. So we're going to move on to the next piece, and we're going to move pretty quickly. Dave mentioned that we're going to have some breakout groups, and we want to make sure that the majority of the time is really spent there. So the problem statement that we've really set out to think through and we're going to be talking about today is really focused first on how might we use skills, and Sam talked about this a little bit, and many of you have talked about it in prior sessions as well, but how might we use skills to actually impact in a positive way economic mobility for all? But then specifically in this discussion today, we're wondering too, how could we help individuals from all different walks of life and all different backgrounds actually develop the skills that will enable them to have that economic mobility? And also, how can we help them to signal those skills? So some of the research that we've been doing has shown that a lot of individuals aren't sure how to talk about the skills that they have and the great strengths that they bring to the table. And so that's really what we've been focusing in our research, and also making sure that we're having the chance to talk with you about it today. So you all already know, because I know that we've had conversations about this before in our sessions, that the labor market is absolutely steadily shifting from skills to degree, or from degrees to skills. We know that many organizations are indicating an interest in this shift. And we also recognize that there are a lot of training organizations that are providing the kind of tools that are needed by individuals to be able to actually make this shift as well. We also recognize that that specific shift will allow a specific new focus on 3 groups of individuals. So one group of those individuals is those who need to actually build in that gap, to be able to fill in that gap for the skills that they don't currently have. We also recognize that there are a number of individuals who want to be able to have a career, but are at risk of having their position actually filled by automation. And then the third group is that we know that there are many individuals out there that have significant potential, but they're actually underemployed currently. And so the research that we've been doing and the work that we've been doing in development is allowing us to recognize and actually reveal some of the things that we might be able to do to help. You all know that Educational Testing Service is focused on assessment, has been since we started as an organization. And what we're really doing is looking to see how can we help to make this happen for lots of individuals across the country. We also recognize that by being able to actually help with this shift, we'll be able to allow the training providers that are moving more and more into this space to be able to confidently admit different people, but not keep people away. So not using assessment as a way to keep people out, but instead using assessment as a way to recognize, here are the strengths that you currently have, here are the opportunities for improvement, and then let's build those opportunities into your actual strengths, and then create a place where you can actually get that training and then move into a specific employer that you would like to actually work for. We also know that that will allow the employers themselves to have that kind of confidence in that they are hiring individuals that are coming from training providers that are able to actually show that these skills are in place. And so we already recognize that a lot of work has been done, many years of work has been done around the technical skills that are able to be trained, so that individuals can recognize that they have specific skills for like sales or any kinds of different types of jobs. And we know that a lot of companies are able to provide those kinds of training opportunities. But we also recognize that, and shown here as an iceberg, that there is this underlying set of skills that really transfers with employees and job seekers and career seekers from industry to industry. And so those are different pieces like cognitive skills and foundational skills and what we call power skills. And Dave's going to talk a little bit more about each of these individual skills, but making sure that we're able to utilize assessment to see if individuals are already showing strengths in some of these areas, and then really specifically being able to narrow in on the training that will allow them to move the most quickly through opportunities to actually engage in that growth. I was actually a teacher for a very long time before I started working at ETS a few years ago. And that pre-assessment idea, right? That idea of being able to know where your learners in the teaching kind of situation are before you actually engage with them in the learning is super important. And that's what we're trying to really do, is see how as a company we can help with that kind of pre-assessment, and then also help get individuals access to the training that they may not have had access to in the past. Dave, do you want to talk more about the skills?
Absolutely. Sorry, I was on mute there. And I was joined while you were speaking. I thought I had closed my office door, but I was joined by a large furry friend. So hopefully she will not bark while I'm speaking. But thanks for all of that intro, Laura. So transferable skills are so very important because they're hard to measure and identify. They're heavily in demand and span across most markets. And these include foundational skills like literacy and numeracy, what we're calling power skills, and AKA, higher order skills or soft skills, and then cognitive skills like communication and problem solving. Next slide, please, Laura. Thank you. So, like I said earlier, transferable skills are in demand, and that's because they're directly linked to job performance. Foundational skills really are just that, the building blocks of all other skill types that are linked to higher earnings. Power skills are traits or learnings that people naturally have. Certain skills are linked to job success in certain industries. So this can help job seekers and employers to identify the right fit for higher performance in a job. I just wanted to point out, these are what we're calling them. You might know them by a different name, as with the cognitive skills versus, or I'm sorry, the power skills versus soft skills. So they may sound familiar just by another name. And then finally, cognitive skills like critical thinking, communication, or collaboration are highly valued by employers because they know there's a direct link to these skills, not only to success on the job, but also longevity on the job. As Laura alluded to earlier, we hear all the time from employers that they're less concerned about technical skills because they know how to teach those skills and they know how to identify those skills. I can tell you're strong in this, but they don't know how to identify or train the cognitive skills. As the saying goes, so many people get hired for their technical skills, but fired for their soft or cognitive skills. They don't play nicely with others, or etc. We're looking to change that paradigm, and the market is telling us that that's what they want. And next slide, please, Laura. So we've created a platform that addresses foundational, power, and cognitive skills for job seekers. As you can see, we look to help them assess their strengths and gaps in these areas to better inform their job hunt. And so they can signal their attainment of these skills to employers, as Laura mentioned earlier. Our foundational skills assessment is adaptive, so meaning it gets harder or easier based on a person's performance as they're using the assessment. So this truly gauges the said job seeker's strengths and weaknesses, or I'd like to call them gaps. Our behavioral assessment is a state-of-the-art forced choice assessment that's incredibly difficult to fake. We've all taken personality assessments, and they usually say on a scale of 1 to 5, how much does the following statement describe you? Well, if it's a trait that's generally perceived as good, folks will, pick 4 or 5 on that, and the opposite is also true. Our assessment forces the job seeker to make a choice between 2 positive and 2 negative choices. So, I show up to work all the time, on time, and I get along well with everybody I meet. So that's a tough one to pick between. If you were going to just pick between a 1 and a 5, you'd want to say 5. This one forces you to make the choice. And through iteration over the course of the assessment, it will draw a more accurate picture of the job seeker. And the same is true for negative statements. I don't get along with anybody and I'm always late. If you're looking for a job, you probably don't want that to describe you, but it would force, someone to choose between the 2. And then finally, our cognitive skills assessment is a modular scenario-based assessment that places the test taker in real-world workplace scenarios to determine how they might respond. Here, we cover critical thinking, collaborative problem solving, communication, and our newest module, coachability, which is how someone receives and responds to criticism or feedback. So with that said, it's a very high-level overview. I'll hand this back to Laura because we want to get everyone here involved in solutioning around their problem statement.
Thanks, Dave. And I wanted to talk too about the fact that, assessments are often seen as scary, especially for individuals. And again, as a teacher, I heard this many, many, many years. There's a lot of people that have a negative view of tests and of assessments. And so our goal with the assessments that we're building is to have these assessments continue to be very purposeful, as they have always been, but to add an empowerment piece to that purpose so that the individuals who are taking those assessments are having things revealed to them that they may not even have known about their own strengths, for example, their own opportunities for improvement, and may not have even recognized as a skill that's really helpful to have in a specific job. We've heard from some of the research that we've been doing that's specifically with users that there have been many instances where they've said, I never really even thought that strength that I had was an important thing for me to talk about and to signal to a prospective employer. So that's been really eye-opening for us to be able to recognize that we can help with that. We can help individuals to say, these are some of the strengths that I have. These are some of the areas where I can continue to grow, and then give them access to the training that will allow them to do that. So being able to really build an ecosystem of sorts that allows for that assessment to be really purposeful and empowering, and then helps me as a career seeker to make really good decisions about the next steps on my career journey as well. And Dave alluded, oh, sorry, Dave, were you gonna say something?
No, finish up, then I'll tackle on one last thing.
And so Dave mentioned that we are building this platform. It's currently in development. We are in a beta kind of phase right now. And we would be happy to share more information about the platform and the whole entire ecosystem that we're building with anybody on the call who's interested in that in a future conversation. We won't do it today just because of time constraints, but we're happy to do that. And we will get into a little more conversation in just a second. Dave, what were you gonna say?
You kind of covered it right there. So thank you.
We
often say we have one brain, so there we do.
Fantastic. Kelsey or Sarah, is there anything that you would add for clarity so far, or for further supplement?
Oh, you're doing a great job. Hope you and David.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so now we're going to move into what Dave just talked about. A bit of time for us to actually break into some small groups and think about how that question that we just talked about, and I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. I'm going to shift over to another screen, and then I will share my screen again. Okay, hold on one second. I'm ready there. Okay. Oh, hold on, I just lost the ability to share my screen. That's weird. Hold on one second. Here we go. Okay, did that come through? All right, so heads nodding, good. Okay.
Yep.
So we're going to move out into this actual spot where we will work in these specific breakout groups. We've basically placed different attendees for today's meeting, along with the help of Gina and Deborah, into some specific categories. So hopefully you see your name here, but your name may not be included. And if it's not included, we apologize. So if your name is not on the list, if you would just join the group that is the best fit for the role that you are actually in, that would be fantastic. Basically what we will do is lead you through some conversation about some brainstorming specifically geared towards the question that we asked at the beginning, which was, how might we help individuals to develop and signal their transferable skills and be able to achieve the economic mobility that they're hoping to achieve? And so we will actually show during that session a screen, which is actually a mural board that looks like what I'm sharing now. In each individual session, each group will select, after some brainstorming time, they will select one idea that they'd like to flesh out a little bit more. And then each group will then come back to the larger group after about 15 or so minutes, and then share out with the larger group. I believe that that is everything I wanted to share. Again, Kelsey, Sarah, Dave, anything that you would add to that? All right.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Gina and Deborah, can you place the different attendees into the specific groups?
Yes, I'll start doing that right now.
Thank you. And then
and people can really be in any group they want to be in.
Yep.
We have quite a few people that were on the list that are not here, and other people that are not on the list who are here. So we attempted to put you in a group. Sometimes it wasn't the organization that you're part of, but where you're kind of, we thought you could make a significant contribution because of your work, your research, et cetera. So we can have the 4 groups and then people can join.
Awesome. And then Deborah will kind of rally us back into the large group. I think around, let's see, around 11:40.
Okay.
And then we'll do the large.
While she's doing that, why don't we see does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask of the speakers here? I guess I was just curious, is this something that, like, who's going to be owning this? Is this more something a company would do, or how does it get to the actual user? I wasn't clear on that.
So that's a great question. And I actually meant to talk about that and I neglected to do that. So thank you, Gina. So we have different models in place that we are considering at the moment where, for example, an employer could have access into the ecosystem for their employees. They could also have access into the ecosystem for recruiting, kind of like what Sam was talking about, as they're considering different individuals for employment. And so what we also envision is that an individual who is seeking out the ability to assess their skills and then train on their skills would never be the person who would pay for the use of the platform. So we would not ask individuals who are coming to the platform to utilize it for that kind of work and development to pay. Instead, it would be, for example, the employer that's paying for it, or we have some other models as well. But that's a really important piece for us because of our mission. Our company's mission is all about equity and quality in opportunity. And so that's an important piece for us to remember, is that the user will not pay. Sam also talked about the fact that the work that he's doing at One Huddle is very user focused, and we have the same kind of thinking. Is that we built the ecosystem to be focused on the user and be able to help them actually make that that growth and development. Thank you, Gina, for reminding me to talk about that.
I'm really glad you said that, because I've worked with a lot of long-term unemployed people, and I think this would be tremendous for them to assess their transferable skills. And they often, as you said, don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And kind of lost their self-confidence along the way.
Yeah.
That's an important point too, I think, Gina, which is that we want folks to understand that these skills come from experience, not necessarily on the job, but life in general, right? You might be a great leader because you led a sports team or a debate team or something like that. You've gained experience throughout life, and it's not all just about the degree you hold.
Absolutely. So, people have tremendous skills that are transferable that they don't even fully recognize.
Yep.
Exactly.
And we're also, and it's probably important to say too that, I mentioned that we've been talking with users, individuals who want to be able to learn about their skills and then move forward in developing them. We're also talking with individuals from organizations like the ones that you all represent. We've been talking with individuals in government agencies, talking with individuals in workforce development kinds of agencies. And so as you're brainstorming today in our co-creation time, if there are questions that are arising, or if you're interested in talking with us further, we're absolutely happy to do that. So, okay, Gina and Deborah might be ready to break us out.
Yes, the rooms are all ready. I am going to open them right now.
Thanks, Deborah.
Quick question.
You talked about wanting to do additional conversation at the end, or do we have minutes to go ahead and share out?
You have the 10 minutes.
Fantastic.
Well, I was going to do with the close is thank everybody and tell them about the next meeting, which I already said, with Peter Capelli on November 17th. So that's the only thing everyone needs to know.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so why don't we just have each of the teams just do a quick, like 1 to 2 minute kind of share out, and then we'll wrap up the slides. So let's see who was on the top left. That was corporations. Kelsey, is somebody in? Yep, and I'll share my screen so that everybody can see that. Did that come through, Kelsey?
Yes, it's coming through. And we're going to have Miss Nalini to be able to share out for us. This group was awesome. We were still in deep conversation, and then it shut us out.
It was very, very interesting. It almost stemmed out of the idea that one huddle Sam spoke about, and also what ETS is trying to do, which is increase the mobility of the employee. First, for the employees to understand, or any individual to understand what kind of skills they possess and how they can use it or show it in a potential job opportunity. Most companies are going through the Great Resignation process right now. So how do we ensure that a company can retain and engage its employees? So we thought of an employee mobility tool, which will capture using AI what skills, identify their own skills, one, to begin with, but then the employee may not be aware of what exists or what other functionalities is looking for. So then it allows them to say, hey, you have all these skills, and there is this group within the company which is looking for employees with your skill sets. So if you do or learn a few more of these skills, foundational or social, or you could move on to that position. So it promotes upskilling, it promotes mobility. And Sam raised a very good question where he talked about if you want a job outside, if companies would share, corporations would share, it even promotes mobility across corporations. The discussion was also, who does it help? It helps everybody, people with a degree, people without a degree, people whose jobs are going away. And how do we use or implement it? We have, options like Workday and other HRIS systems, which are now more comprehensive. It tries to capture all the skills, abilities, and even career map mentors. So we have Gen Zs talking to experienced employees or new hires being mapped with experienced employees within the same company. So I think I captured everything. Not sure if anybody wants to pitch in.
You did an excellent job. Excellent job.
Thanks, Nalini. Thank you. Hold on, I'll go over to the next one. This one was universities and academia.
Perfect. So our group, the name we came up with was University Partnerships for Skill-Based Certification. We're thinking more about partnership or potentially like a coalition rather than a traditional tool. And from our group, I believe, was it Aaron?
I can jump in here. There was only two of us, so I can jump in and then Edith back me up here. We had a pretty robust discussion. A couple just points that we talked about. Food for thought is also that universities are also employers too. So we also kind of talked about that for a little bit. But getting into this, we just recognize that many people will come to a university for a 4-year degree, and that there's also partnerships that it can be made with community colleges or other certifications, depending on the industry and the skill set that is needed. So how can universities enable a partnership to help those certifications, or offer them, or be a connecting link for people that are not looking to go through a 4-year degree, but still looking to get those foundational skills and get certified so that they can get some jobs. And then on the flip side, there's also people who have been out of the workforce, who are experienced, but have been out of the workforce and or maybe in the workforce, have a ton of experience, but the one thing that might be holding them back is the fact that they don't have a 4-year degree. So could something like these specific certifications help out in that area? So Edith, anything I'm missing? Or Sarah?
No, I mean, one of the things we talked about also was the importance of the partnerships, in the bottom right corner, because we could build the best model that we all think is great, but if the employers don't view it as great, then it won't achieve the goal.
Yeah, and one more note too to add is obviously there are a lot of universities offering certifications, right? But sometimes those certifications may come with, requiring a 4-year degree, or they're so specialized. So this is also getting beyond that into the actual technical certification that somebody may need to actually do their job.
Super helpful. And your point too about having employers who are actually willing is a super important point. It actually is a very nice segue to our conversation let me just zoom out a little bit here. Government organizations. Is there anybody that was in our small group that would like to present some of the information that we talked through? All right, I guess I'll talk it through. So we talked specifically around making sure that employers are on board. And we wanted to make sure that whatever the solution would be, that the solution would first allow time to validate that the employers actually do value the skills as a hiring driver, to make sure that they're hiring according to skills and not just to using a degree as a proxy. We would want to make sure that the features include the ability for skills to be the main thing that employers are reviewing, and also making sure that employers are looking at the tech that they're already utilizing to decide whether they would make an initial hiring decision to see if that tech is aligned with a skills-based approach. Also agreed that it was really allowing benefit for all three across the board, but specifically on the foundational skills group and those being replaced by automation. And then we definitely recognized that in order for this to be utilized more fully, we would want to make sure that there was more unbiased research that is actually indicating that employers will value this skills-based approach. We know that there's research out there, but research from, for example, saying that they value it to actually valuing it can be different, and making sure that that unbiased research is there. And that was super quick. I'll move over to the last one, which I believe was nonprofits. And Dave, was there anybody in this group that was ready to share?
Yes, Maria will share out for us. Thanks, Maria.
Okay, and
as you, go ahead,
David, maybe you can help me a little bit. Why don't you start off?
Of course. So as you can see here, we didn't really get into a ton. We didn't get to finish our little placard here. But one of the things that we got into was the communication of skills, as we just talked in our broader meeting. The communication of skills that are developed through life experiences. And so what that kind of led to was a Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, TFA type model with experiential learning, where you learn on the job as you get your education. And then a key theme that came out too was socioeconomic exposure both ways. So those from lower SES might, getting exposed to other circumstances, and then those who are doing the hiring perhaps also being exposed to that, to understand where people are coming from, skills that can be developed, how people communicate, etc. Maria, is that helpful? Would you like me to keep going, or?
You go ahead. You're doing a great job.
So pretty much that's more or less where we landed. There were some great points brought up as well. Laura, I don't know if you're able to scroll a little bit left. We talked about partnerships, like with professional organizations, United Way. Everyone is interested in this area, as we know. That's why we're all here. And then sort of a process of determining what needs to be assessed. What are the skills that are in demand? Assess them, and then how do those fit? How do they map onto, how do the skills that people have map onto the what's being looked for in the job market, what's in demand. So a lot of which, our platform, that's how we're designing it, right? Is to get at those skills that everybody wants, and then showing folks where they stand in those skills, and then presenting them with opportunities to either upskill or gain attainment, or attain a job, etc. Laura, I saw you come off of mute.
Yep, I just know we're right at 12 o'clock.
Yep.
So I just want
to go right for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I showed this final screen. So if any of what we've talked about today in this part of the presentation has resonated with you, and you're from a workforce development organization and you want to learn more about the ecosystem, or you're from a corporation and you're interested in learning about the ecosystem from the employer side, or any other number of different scenarios where you may find yourself serving in this role to help to learn about individuals who have, for example, underutilized skills and have opportunities to be able to move forward in their career. We'd love to hear from you. So we are, like I said, engaging in lots of conversations with lots of people across this ecosystem, lots of different organizations, and we would be happy to provide you a demo and also continue to have conversations that would get even more in depth where we'd have additional time. So I think that brings it to a close. You can feel free to contact either of us or reach out to Gina and Deborah, and they also know how to get in touch with us as well.
Yep. You can
Gina?
also find us on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. That was fabulous. And I think we got some really great ideas. We will capture the recording, the PowerPoints. Laura, if we could also capture some of those charts, because they were really great ideas we didn't have time to discuss.
Yep, will do.
And we'll follow up. And if anybody has anything else you'd like to send us, we'd be happy to post it. And we will definitely see everybody again on November 17th with Peter Capelli, and the follow-on meeting after that, which will be the final meeting of this year, is December 14th, which is a Tuesday. So be sure to put that on your calendar. And I want to thank Laura, David, Sarah, and Kelsey. Great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.